What's going on YouTube? This is John from Cyberworks. All right, welcome to another crazy communication slash PLC slash channel with everything automation. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be connecting the SM1278 IO Link module that's made by Siemens, right, directly to their controller, right? So right here I have the 1200 controller, 1212C, and I have the SM1278 IO Link module. Now, you notice that a lot of companies are actually producing these IO links, right? So one good one, right, is the IFM's 1100 IO link master, right? I'm actually going to be using IFM, right, with the sensors connected to this module, right? But what is the difference, right? I think the difference to me, right, the difference is in the application. If I got something far away, right, whatever is beyond the reach of the cable, I think IFMs, I think for these sensors, 20 meters, I think it's a 20 meters is a max, or maybe 10 meters is a max, one of them, right? If I got to go beyond that, I am using this, all right? Because this goes in, it powers up, right? And it's got a network cable and 12 network connector, right? You could literally take it somewhere remote, right? Hook it up to the network, make sure it's on the same network as your PLC, and you'll still be able to pull the data. Now, with this route, right, this is actually whatever the length of the cable and below, right? So if this PLC is in the vicinity of where these sensors or whatever sensors are going to be, right, that's when I want to use this, right? And another thing is with this, as long as you have the IODD file, right, which is a description file, we're going to go over this. You could actually put anything in here, right? So I can mix and match sensors, right? With IFM, I think they're only going within their family, but don't quote me on this. You guys can try it. I'm gonna try it. If it works, I will post it on online how to actually mix and match these devices, right? So it's kind of nice to have one family in house, but also we're talking with projects, money, and everything else. This would be the ideal option if you're working with this PLC. All right, let's get started. All right, before we get started, let's go over a quick summary, right? So we're gonna be talking about wiring. We're gonna be talking about package downloads. We're gonna talk about TIA setup, module setup, and then finally testing. That is it. It's actually a quick setup, for these modules, right? It's a little crazy, right? Because you got to do a couple things and you may be missing a couple things, but we're gonna go over this, right? So I got everything set up from scratch. We're gonna go from scratch like we just installed that whole entire module. All right, let's go over the wiring. The wires, actually the cable I'm using is the M12 cable, right? The 4-wire cable that goes from the sensor over to the IO link. You're gonna notice there's actually, you have the white, blue, black, and brown, right? We're gonna eliminate white, right? So we're gonna take away the white and we got only left over brown, black, and blue. This is the cables that are gonna be going directly to that module. All right, now, how did I get this information? If you go in, let me pull it up. If you go into the manual, right, inside of the IO link manual, you're gonna have the pin layout, right? So they have layout for 4-pin M12, and they have 5, I think 5 and 6, right? So this one's for 4. Number 2 was the white, so we get rid of the 2. That's why we got only 3 cables left, right? And then rest of them are gonna connect to the 24 volts, the 0 volts, and then switching. That's all. Right, and let's go over this. So, one more thing. You notice that you have the SIO and IO link, right? So when we go into the software, right, we're gonna see these options, right? This is you want to be on the IO link on this, right? So IO link on a distance sensor is gonna give you the values, right? The DIDQ is just gonna be on off like a regular sensor, right? So but the software is actually gonna determine that. All right, so from the plug going over to the actual module. On the module, right, you're gonna have the 24 volts. So you're gonna have the 24 volts going to the card. Then you're gonna have your layout, right? So here's how this is laid out. This is sensor 1. So the top back is actually 1. Top front is 2. Bottom front is 3. And then bottom back is 4. The way I have mine set up is I have sensor 1 and sensor 2. So I got the top filled up, and I got sensor 4 wired in, right? So I have no sensor 3. And the reason I went with this option is because if I need to wire in another sensor, is actually in front, right? So this the bottom portion right here, right, is actually top, right? This is the back side of the controller, right? So it's going to be a lot easier to wire it into the front than the back. So that's why I'm using 1, 2, and 4 versus 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's go ahead and move on to software. If this is your first time actually working with this module, right, what you want to do is you want to get a couple packages. So the first package is you want to get is a IODD file for your sensor, right? So IO device description file for your sensor. For mine is the IFM, right? So I'm working with IFM today, and if I pull up the IFM, so the sensor I'm working with is 01D 102 and 120, right? If I scroll down, I'm looking for this IODD IO device description. So this right here is actually going to go into the catalog, right, of the next piece of software that you're going to need to actually configure this module. All right, the next piece of software is going to be right here, right? So this one is a port configuration tool, right? So you could download this directly from Siemens, right? But you're going to have to, they're going to ask you, when you install it, it's going to ask you to restart a couple times, right? So make sure you save everything before you run this, right? But yeah, this is what you're going to need to actually run into the, go into that module. And I'm going to show you how you know whether you need it or not, whether you have it or not. Right, and of course your update files. If you haven't updated TR portal, this is also a good option, right? Update all your files, so that way you're not trying to wrestle 10,000 problems with with having a wrong file and all this other stuff. All right, so now that we have our devices wired up, we have our packages in place. They're already downloaded. Now it's time to actually start configuring the device. So I already have the PLC configured. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the IO link, right? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to determine what I want to do with my application, right? So if I click, right, it's going to give me input, output, or input, output. In my case, it's just the input, right? So I'm putting data into the IO link module, right, from the sensor. That's it. The next thing I'm going to determine is what's going to be the starting address, right? So now they're telling me it's 1 to 32. If I actually open up my ports, right, I have, well, my next available is actually 1, so 1 to 32 is actually perfect. So I'm not wasting any space, right? Because I have the PLC, right, the input address 00, right, then, and this one is 1 to 32, or 1, right? And what's the length, right? So mine is to 32, right, but depends on how many sensors you got in there, right? So if you want to save some space, you could leave it to whatever amount of space your sensor requires. In my case, those are 8 bits a pop, right? So I just opened it up all the way down to 32, and later on I can actually, if I need to add a sensor, I don't have to mess with this anymore, right? I'm gonna leave organizational block and process image alone for my case, right? And I'm done for this portion. The next important portion is going to be going to the sensor. So if you click on the sensor and you right click it, right, you're going to have a change device and start device tool. So this is the port configuration tool that I was talking about downloading, right? If this is graded out, that means you need that tool. Just go to stop, pause the video, go to Siemens, download the tool, install it, restart your stuff, and you should be able to access it. If you already have it, let's go ahead and start working with it. So I'm going to go ahead and click start this, right? And then click start. All right, so when you open this port configuration tool, right, it's going to give you everything about this IO link master, right? So it's going to give you the product name, article number. Now, important thing right here is the ports, right? So you have all 4 ports here. We're going to occupy, in my case, we're going to occupy 1, 2, and 4. 3 is a blank, so it's going to stay deactivated. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, right, you have the IO link version 1.0 and then IO link version 1.1. If you open this up, if this is your first time using this and you actually start commissioning this, you may not have this folder, right? I'm going to show you how to actually get these files, right? But you may have only Siemens and then standard. And if you go to standards, you have generic device. If you go to Siemens, you have all this other stuff. But let's say your device is like mine, which is a whole different brand from Siemens, right? So I need to go ahead and install these files, right? So these are the IODD files that I was talking about. Well, here's how you do it. If you go into options and you go into import IODD files, if you browse to where you have them, so mine are going to be right here, right in my downloads, you notice that I haven't unzipped this. So this is actually asking for a zip file, right? So you don't want to unzip it. You want to give them zip file, and you click open. When you click open, it's going to give you all the devices. So once you have the devices, you can actually go into show. Go to show. There we go. And it's going to give you the information about it, the picture, so on and so forth, right? I think they use the same picture for the same sensors. They are pretty much the same looking sensors. Only difference is the model number. Okay, let's go ahead and close this. So we have these devices. Now you're going to go in, select all, whatever you got to do, and then click import. I don't have to import it, right? If I click import, I can re-import it, but it's going to basically, see, it's going to tell me replace all or skip all. I'm just going to skip all. In your case, if you don't have it, it's going to download. So it's going to start downloading to this particular, this portion here. And then you're going to have these files. So I'm going to close this up. And this is how I got this IFM electronic folder. If I click on this, right, it will give me, I guess that's the folder that they named, right? If I open this up, here's my sensors, right? So I'm only working with 102 and 120, right? Rest of them, I've never worked with them, right? But I'm only working with these two. So now, if you got different sensors, make sure you write down which port has what, right? I was wrestling with this thing for a while when I set up for the first time, right? So make sure you have right sensor in the right port. So in my case, I got the 102 in port number 1. Then I got the 120s in 2, and I got another 120 in port number 4. Okay. Now, when you set this up, right, if you go to addresses, right, if you go show PLC addresses, click OK. It's going to give you the PLC addresses for these sensors and where they start and finish, right? So mine are only inputs. So they start at 10 and end at 87, and then 290, 16.7, and 17 and 24. And I got the 3 as a gap, right? If I go to all ports, click OK, click OK, right? It will give me all the actual tags that I need for those sensors, right? So if I open this up, right, we have for each sensor. So port 1, right, it's got all this data. Port 2, it's got all this data. Port 4, it's got all this data. In my case, right, I care about the distance, right, and I'm looking at device status, right? So this is what I care for, but the rest of it is already there. Now, what I do is you could actually create a PLC data type source file. So if you want to take this, you could actually export this and have it. But what I do is I'll take all of this, I copy it, I will open my super duper handy Excel document. Whoops. All right, and I will drop this in there. Let's drop it this way. All right, so I have this pretty much in my file for reference, but there's a method to my madness, right? So this is one reason, right? It kind of gives me, okay, I won't forget it if I download it or get out of this tool, right? So I'll put this off to the side. We don't need it right now. All right, so we have this set up, right? If we go to status, it's not going to give us status yet. Nothing yet here, right? We're going to have to download it, right? So right here you have load with devices, load to PG with devices. Since I have devices already, I'm just going to click load to PG with load to the controller with devices. Now this thing's going to go ahead and start loading to that IO link. All right, if everything downloaded, took a little bit of time, right? But if everything downloaded correctly, you should see all green boxes here, right? So you should see all green boxes here, and you should see all green ports on your IO link. Now, if you have red boxes here, chances are either got the wrong device, you got the wrong wiring, right? Or wrong port, right? So you want to double check that. If you look at your IO link, right, and you got blinking lights, right, this is where the problem actually is, which port it is, so you know exactly where it is. Now, if you look at your IO link and you got smoke coming out, something's wrong. So you need to shut it down. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. All right, so we did the download. Everything is good. You have that green check mark right here. You had your green check marks on download. Let's go ahead and go online with this device. So if you go up top right here, you have that little plug thing, right? Click on it. And you should start taking you online with the devices. So the cool thing about this, you can actually preview the sensors in this configuration tool, right? So you'll be able to see all the data coming in and all this other stuff. So you'll be able to adjust it. All right, so I paused it, right? Because it took a little bit to get online, right? But we are online right now. So you obviously going to see the big green online button or online little thing up here, right? But if you go to the left and you open this up, you can actually go into the sensor, right? So each sensor is going to give you a little bit of data, right? So it's going to give you the identification, parameters, right? So all the parameters that are going to that sensor for that sensor are actually here, right? Which is cool because you could do some cool stuff with this stuff or get some cool stuff out of this too. Monitoring. So this is what I was talking about. Right now, my 102, right? So the shorter sensor, right, is reading 656 millimeters. Let's test it. All right, it's actually live data, beautiful, right? So I'm flagging that sensor and it's actually changing the data, right? So I have a lot of cool information that will help me troubleshoot later on. Open this, there we go. Like the reflectivity, right, for the sensor, right? So the less reflectivity you have, the worse of a signal or a lot of jumps you're gonna have. But there's a lot of cool setup features in these sensors, right? So you can actually stabilize it. So you see all this data right here. Now earlier, well, let me go offline with this. So I'm done here, right? This is set up. I'm seeing the sensors. I don't have any problems. Now it's time for me to actually go into the program and test to make sure everything is good. So I'm going to go offline right here. And I'm going to close this. When I close this, right, do you want to save changes? Yes, I do. So now it's saving changes and it's going to take the whole thing offline. Now, why did I save all these tags, right? So I told you earlier, it's reference, right? I got a little trick, right? So sometimes I lose things and it's easier for me to just put it on something and remember it. But anyways, if I go into the PLC tags, right? So I have a default tag table. If I open up this default tag table, it got nothing in it. I want to have my own specific tag table, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add a new tag table. Let me rename it to, let's say, sensor tags. Beautiful. And we are in default tag table still. So let's close this out. We don't need this anymore. Let's close this out. Now I'm going to go to my sensor tags. Now, if I go to my sheet, I can rename this how I want to, right? So I could put sensor one, right? Distance, sensor one reflectivity. But for now, let's go ahead and take a couple things. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to match the data type and address. So I have the data type and address. I'm going to take all of this. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go into my PLC. I'm going to paste it. Boom. Well, looks like it took one. Okay, so, okay, hold on 1 second. Let's go back to our thing. We are missing our thing right here. Copy that. Paste that is. Yes, we want to override. All right. Oh, that's where we screwed up. All right, let's erase this. Let's delete this. Let's start again. Do it right. I'm going to take these. Copy. Put them under address, the right freaking thing. All right, beautiful. Now, you notice this already populates all this stuff. I'm just going to go back and make sure that my data types are correct. So I'm going to go and highlight my data types. Copy those, put it right here. Paste them. Now we have correct data types. And then the final setup is our stuff right here. Paste. Yes, all right. Boom, done. So now we have our tags set up. Now we go ahead and download this whole thing to the PLC. Right, so we're doing the same old, same old. Load it. Beautiful. We are done. Let's go ahead and go online. All right, and we're gonna go ahead and fire this off. So as you can see, I have the tags, or I'm sorry, I have the sensors, right? So I have the first sensor here, second sensor, and third sensor right here. Let's go ahead and flag them. All right, so as I flag them, all these change, right? So it's nice, it's quick, easy, right? Transfer, and we're done. Now I can go ahead and start using these tags in my project, right? Start developing whatever I gotta do for the application. All right, so this is how you set up that whole entire module, right? It's not really hard, right? There's a lot of small little steps when you start off, but it's not a lot, right? And cool thing about it is, like I said, you could change out the sensors, right? You could test with different sensors in your applications, right? And pull that directly in there. As long as you have the catalog files, you drop them in, you're done, right? You download it to the PLC, you run it, right? You could actually do the checks. If you set up an external block, right, for your sensors, and then use the temps, right, inside of function codes or whatever, then all you got to do is change that block and everything else will follow, right? So it kind of makes it really nice and really simple. All right, well, this is it. I hope this helped you guys out. Give me thumbs up, give me likes. That'd be awesome. And thank you for watching my video.